call the Northborough School Committee open meeting for Wednesday, March 1st, 2017, into session. First order of business is to have an action on the open meeting minutes, February 1, 2017. Mrs. Kress.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes of the regular open meeting of February 1st, 2017 with one slight correction. Page 4, I most certainly did make the motion to adjourn. However, I did not request the motion. Maybe that would have been you. So a little bit on K on page 4.
Okay.
Okay, yes.
Right.
So if we could change that to Mr. Kane. Other than that, do we have any other changes? All right, so we have a motion
I
to,
second.
okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Thank you.
Good catch.
We'll make that change. And we have,
I move that we approve the executive session minutes. Oh, are we releasing?
Approve and
Approve to
retain.
retain.
All right, so I move that we approve and retain the executive session minutes of February 1st, 2017.
Second.
any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? All right, so we will move on to new business, and we have a discussion of the Fitzgerald Institute.
Right, and tonight we'll be requesting a vote to approve in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 76, Section 1, which is entitled Regulation of School Attendance, Approval of Private Schools, Private School Transportation. In general, and sort of encapsulating the Mass General Law, so noted, if a private school is operating within the community that a public school committee has authority, then that private school has to participate in a review by the public school, generally through the superintendent of schools office. They participate in a review of their general operations. This has not happened in some time in Northborough. We have had this in other districts. And this evening, what we have for you is a summation letter that's in your packet from Mr. Martineau to myself. And it really summarizes the process that we have to undertake, again, to comply with this regulation. And for the most part, it's interesting that all of this work is part of an attendance policy and an attendance regulation. But it does say, and you have a copy of the Mass General Law in front of you, that the review needs to take place in a timely fashion. We were contacted by the Fitzgerald Institute. We do know that it's up the street by the police station, 261 Main Street. And Greg, I'm going to turn this over to Greg because he actually conducted a very thorough review. And based upon that, this evening, I would recommend that we vote to approve in accordance with this policy. So Greg, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Sure. So as Superintendent Johnson alluded to, we had several meetings with Ms. Erin Fournier, the Director of Operations. She provided us documentation around the handbook, discipline policy, curriculum, educational materials, time on learning. And I also spent an hour or so observing the program and looking at their space. And based on my observations and the review of the documents, I made a recommendation to Superintendent Johnson to move this forward to the committee for approval.
I will add that, of course, with something of this magnitude, and because it is a regulation and required by law, this was thoroughly reviewed by council. In fact, it was the council that reviewed similar language the last time we were asked to conduct such a review. And so that's what you have in front of you. And it has been, as I said, thoroughly vetted through legal counsel.
Start with Mrs. Kress and then move down.
I was going to make the motion to just get the ball rolling. I move that we approve the Fitzgerald Institute's program.
I just have a quick question on how often that we have to do this, and if there's other private schools in town, do they approach you or do we approach them to be compliant with this law?
Well,
how often does it have
it's
to be
a
done?
combination. Sometimes if a private school that's already in operations adds another grade or another type of program, then we are asked to review. The Department of Ed also requires us to review, and until such review is undertaken, the Department of Ed does not necessarily provide them with an official school code, so that means that they can't comply with the Department of Ed's regulations as well. So generally speaking, it's a combination of all of those things that you mentioned. We aren't always aware of who might be moving into the district, but they, the school, cannot really operate and provide the information to the Department of Ed without such a number. So we're either contacted by them or contacted through the Department of Ed, notifying us that this needs to take place. In the one instance that it happened before, in 2013, it was because of a private school not in this community, but in a shared district, was opening up an entirely new grade level that was not part of their curriculum offering. And so we needed to conduct such a review at that time. So it's a
So if
combination.
it's existing, it doesn't need to be done like an annual thing. It doesn't have to be
No.
done every year, so like it's a one and done
It's a
type
one
of
and done.
situation? Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
No. I think the motion was made.
We
right?
have- we have a
Yeah,
motion?
I second the motion to approve the Fitzgerald Institute program.
All those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you, and I thank Greg for doing a
Yeah.
great job and very detailed, very thorough, and in a timely manner. So thanks, Greg, for all that great work.
So we have no old business, and we can move swiftly onto the monthly general fund expenditure report.
Your, as of February 28th, your expenditure report is in your packet. I will note once again that we are keeping a very watchful eye over our special education costs. We've had this conversation twice now when we've moved the budget through to school committee for approval. At this point, we are watchful, and we will provide updates for the school committee if anything changes between now and our March presentation. Cheryl, I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, that was perfect.
All right?
Move we approve the monthly general fund expenditure report as of February 28, 2017 until audited.
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you. Budget goals are in the packet.
Budget goals and the calendar will be covered when I provide an update on the recommended budget. And enrollments are also in your packet, very much a part of our conversation with appropriations on Saturday. A number of school committee members were able to adjust their calendars and be present. I know Patty Kress was there, John Kane, and Joan Frank. And this is an annual event. The school committee and our budget for FY18 is reviewed in detail with appropriations. And so that's how we spent Saturday morning, and it was really a great exchange of information and questions. I think we left with the appropriations committee feeling very positive about the work that's been done and the budget that we're bringing forward. It's a maintenance budget for the most part with very targeted growth areas that have been part of our conversations and support our strategic plan. And enrollments was a big part of the conversation. We did share with them the policy changes that have been made over the last year, conversations over 2 years. The great length of time that we spent crafting a policy that we could actually work with that would make a difference in terms of staffing and enrolling our students consistent with our recommended class size policy. And they were quite pleased with the work that everyone had been doing to address a problem that has been discussed for many years. We had one of the members of appropriation who was on the K-8 at least 20 years ago, if not 30 years ago, and he approached us after the meeting and said, you know, we had this same problem 20 years ago, and we couldn't figure out how to make it work. So they were very appreciative that we instituted a directed redistricting by central office for our enrollment. So right now, we are keeping, again, a very close eye on our numbers. As I mentioned last month, we have capped some of the classes, which basically means if someone is moving into the community in a grade in a particular school where we know we are at class size, recommended class size levels, we are, as we did last year, putting them on a wait list. From my enrollment numbers last month presented at school committee to this month's, we've already seen some fluctuations. So we know that through this list that we're able to quickly notify parents who are moving into the community that there is a space. Once that space is dedicated and committed, that family is assured of that space. But it changes, and it will change from now until the end of the year. But what we are doing is making sure that as parents or families approach the schools and attempt to enroll, that we have a working document in front of us at all times, and we know when and to whom we can say our classes are capped, and go to central office, and you'll be placed on a wait list. So that really has worked out. What's new is actually the conversations we're having now, because last year we implemented this policy about May, after a year-long discussion. And we could answer the questions that came about around implementation and enrollment from May to this point in time. What we are experiencing now is the questions that we didn't have asked between January and April. So we're in the process of working those out, and I think it's going quite well. And again, very collaborative effort on the part of the schools. We still hear this is a good thing, and it's allowing us to ensure parents that we're adhering to our recommended class sizes. There are variations, and I really want to point this out, because there are some situations where we have siblings in a school. We do not want to separate siblings, if at all possible. We have dialogue with the parents and give them an option. Everyone who is now in the school and enrolled in the school is guaranteed to be enrolled in that school next year. That was one of the benefits of this language, so that when we sat down to work on budgets, we knew exactly what our class sizes were. Next year, we'll have even newer information, because the teachers, through the negotiations, agreed to move up their notification dates to January. So that's another tool that's going to be very helpful for us next year. But sitting down with the principals and talking about staffing, it was a completely different conversation, because we at least know our max levels in our schools. We also know that in looking at where we are with our enrollments, we have spaces available in at all of our grades in Northborough. And that varies depending upon enrollments in each of our schools. It's been well received, and we look forward to implementing this process again this year. Even she likes that.
Future enrollee.
That was a rousing support back there. Perfect timing. I don't know if there's any, questions, or I throw it out to, if you don't mind, to the principals as well, if they have any comments they want to make, other than, maybe a thumbs up or whatever that might be, from Alana. Thanks, Jen. Always good.
Good. All right, so now we can move on to the FY18 Superintendent's recommended budget.
Absolutely. So this will be a brief second while we reposition ourselves. I think I'm going to actually do this from my seat, so I'm not standing in front of the camera. We had a little change in room dynamics from our last meeting. Always keeps us on our toes here, so that's all good.
I'll be back. One.
No, good.
Prime real estate over here. Prime real estate. Be careful what you wish for.
Power enough. Nice.
It's warm in here. You got this all memorized now. I'm gonna quiz you later. Oh, true.
I always say, okay, wait, put my head there.
looks like the desktop extended right now instead of duplicated.
we were doing this earlier and.
Was it the Control F5?
Okay, Greg.
Yep. You know Mac and Windows,
You know
right?
my date.
She didn't ask for us.
There you go.
So what this did the first time was it needed my entire copy.
Copy the PowerPoints. There we go.
Okay.
All right.
We're back
Way
in
to stick
So we
business.
with
teach our students
That's good.
resilience,
Excellent. A little
perseverance,
bit of
and
grit.
leadership.
Yeah.
So, this was actually, this is a version of the preliminary budget. There's been a couple of great updates to reflect changes that we've made since the preliminary budget was presented in January. We did not present a recommended budget in February because some of those variables that really impact a budget, like staffing and town numbers that are still not always known in January, really affect our final budget. And so what we were able to do is to be patient, to be thorough and thoughtful with the numbers that we present, and to wait until those numbers were much clearer. And so this evening, we're presenting the recommended budget with a request for approving this budget. Next month, we will have the public hearing in anticipation of the town meeting. So again, this will be a review of many of the slides that were presented in January with the preliminary budget. We always start with our vision and mission, very much embedded in our strategic plan, and it serves to ground us in the work that we do throughout the budget process. This is a summary of the budget process, which really begins very early in the next school year. And in this case, we start very early in September, and we start to develop our budget goals leading all the way up to a town meeting this year, which is April 24th. Our budget goals this year are truly reflected in the work that we were able to do throughout the budgeting process and the outcomes that are realized with the budget that's been presented. We talked a little bit when we talked about enrollments around the class size policy, and this is something that really has been first and foremost in our work not only this year, but last year as well. And what it also helped do was actually form our staffing model for next year as well. To meet the needs of all learners with a classroom model of differentiated instruction and standards-based classroom. And I will also follow with the next goal, provide programs and staffing to meet the social and emotional health of all of our children. Last month we talked, or in January, we talked about the development of a new therapeutic program, and that program was designed in the hopes that our neighboring district of Southborough would partner with us to develop this very targeted program to meet the needs of students who we've identified would benefit from creating a program like this. Not only does it meet their needs academically, socially, and emotionally, but it allows us to retain our students in district where really we would like to have all of our students remain. And this therapeutic program would be staffed with a licensed clinical social worker and also a special education instructor. It would be very small class size numbers and would be staffed with some additional aides that would be on staffing on a one-to-one basis. I'm very pleased to say to you this evening and share that Southborough will partner with us in this program, and the program will be housed in Northborough. So that program is moving forward. In the budget, we'll note that Northborough's portion of that partnership is the clinical licensed social worker. Wanting to get the best staff, we have already begun the process of seeking someone to fill that position now, and we're hopeful that we're able to start the development of the program this year as well. We do know that we do have some students who would benefit from the program if it's in place this year. We also talked about the wonderful work that's being done at Melican through the Metro West Foundation grant, which supports the work here at Melican School and adds to the continuum of services that are here at the middle school, but then also allow for effective transitioning to the high school. Maintain the district's capital assets with a special emphasis on safety and up-to-date energy efficiencies. This year we have embedded in the FY18 budget resources that continue to maintain our assets here and keep our schools upgraded, make sure that our students are safe, make sure that we're exploring and maximizing opportunities to benefit from energy efficiencies. Our solar feasibility study is still going on, and we're hopeful that those documents are signed so that we can launch phase 1 within the next couple months. This is a partnership with the town of Northborough. They too will be working with us to identify what buildings in Northborough may be ripe for solar, so that we receive some return on investment and then offset the cost of the budget. The more other external resources we find to offset the budget, the more we can capture in the budget and stay within the frameworks that the town has set for all of its town departments. Again, certainly there's no shortage of alignment with frameworks, and we have worked very hard this year at the K-8 level to integrate fully the new science curriculum. We've been making a significant investment in resources to support that new frameworks, and I always share with folks that it's very exciting to hear K-5 teachers talking about where are we going to store the live bugs that are now in our schools, and how do we do that? So biology and the elements of science and experimentation are alive and well or right now alive and well in our district. So that's something very exciting and very new for us. We continue with our technology plan. Technology is certainly one of the cornerstones of our strategic plan, and we also, because it is so important in today's teaching and learning environment, to make sure that we have current resources for all of our students to access, and also to support our curriculum and our instructional resources. We have developed a technology implementation plan with the phenomenal support of the Northborough Education Foundation. I am pleased to say that with this budget, we will be 1-to-1 of reliable mobile devices at grades 3 through 8, and 2-to-1 in grades K through 2. We've been able to move forward with our budgeting model. We've had some personnel shifts. We have realized some benefits, some cost savings due to a few retirements in the district. We have identified a new student-centered program, just talking a little bit about the therapeutic program and also the programs that Michelle has been talking and sharing about at Melican. We continue to work closely with those who provide grant opportunities, whether it's the Metro West Foundation, which has also provided an equal amount of funding to the high school, but also with Northborough Ed Foundation. We continue to upgrade not just the technology and the devices, but the infrastructure to support those devices so that when students access them, they work, they're turned on. They tune into the instructional resources and the applications, and they do so in a time-sensitive manner. There's no delay or wait time. This year was a negotiation year for us. I mentioned last month that we did successfully negotiate with our Teachers Association. Very much a positive, collaborative process. And through collective work and collaboration and dialogue, we were able to settle that teacher's contract quickly this year, and within guidelines and costs that really can be supported through our operational budget. And we are in current negotiations with the secretaries and aides and cafeteria and custodians. This year we spent a lot of time benchmarking our line item funding to make sure that we can say to our community the money we are asking for is money that's needed in the classrooms to support the wonderful programs that we have in place for our students. This year's budget has decline in enrollment by about approximately 100 or so students, 120 students. It varies because our enrollment numbers are not fully known to us. We won't know next year's numbers until we're well into next year. But we do know that we've had a shift K-8, and so we were able to realize some savings that allowed us to do the kinds of the things that we're presenting in the budget by realizing some cost savings. We had a 1.0 instructional technologist in our school, but we also realize as digital resources change and technology changes, so does the way that we support that technology. And so much of the work now to keep that technology moving forward and upgrades and refreshing applications is not necessarily done at the building level like it may have been in years past, but is really a remote experience. So there's been a cost savings to the Northborough budget because while we still maintain that support, we've shared those costs with Southborough and Algonquin. So we were able to reduce Northborough's portion by 0.6. We have had tremendous positive feedback about the addition this year of a 0.5 math coordinator. That position was shared with Southborough, but it allowed us to move forward with supports in the area of mathematics, much like we've had for a number of years in reading. That position this year has been grant funded. It will remain a 0.5 grant funded next year through Title I, but we are requesting that that half body become a full body for Northborough next year, and that is the 0.5 math coordinator that's reflected in the operational budget. And there you see the clinical licensed social worker as well. So with the addition and subtraction of reductions in proposed staff, we have a 3.1 FTE reduction. In addition to that, the principals have been requesting for some time an increase in support hours for our secretaries at each of our 4 K-5s, and we were able to add some additional time at a nominal financial impact on the budget so that we have, or parents have, access to someone over the summer. And how that's all going to work out, we'll wait till the budget's approved before we share that, I think. ELL is English language learners. Much of the cost of ELL to support family engagement and outreach is provided through a Title III federal grant. That grant, unfortunately, doesn't increase. It tends to decrease, as do many of our grants. And so in this case, we have a support person who works with Rhoda on behalf of the entire, Northborough, Southborough, Algonquin district. It's a district-wide position, and .4 of that position is paid on a grant, which is no longer available. So 40% of that .4, an amount of about $3,000, has been shifted to the operational budget so that we can maintain those support services. That brings us to the final recommended budget for 2018. It's a $725,174 increase, and that represents a $23,445,017 2018 budget. This is a snapshot of where that budget is expended by budget function, by fund code. That large red portion is 69%, just slightly over 69%, and that's teaching and staffing all combined in that. And then you can see we have athletics and activities represented, custodial supplies and maintenance, technology, non-instructional support, utilities, contractual obligations. As I mentioned, it was a big year for contract negotiations. What we generally do is break it out separate because it's not embedded yet in the salaries. Next year you won't see that because it'll be reflected in the increase in salaries. It was a 222 cost of living allowance. It's a 3-year contract. But I'm pleased to say that working very closely with the teachers, as we collectively did as a committee, there were no significant other financial impacts to the negotiation process. Melissa Jameson is here with us. She's vice chair of the Teachers Association. So we've extended thanks, but can't extend enough for the good collaboration. And we had some increase in transportation, mostly in the area of student support services, and that tends to be, and out-of-district tuition. Was slightly increased as well. But we also see building administration and all of those. It's difficult to see from perhaps where you are, but it is reflected in the PowerPoint as well. So that is the FY18 budget. I'd like to thank the community of Northborough for its tireless and always present continued support for our school, more importantly, our students in our schools. So thank you.
Right, as we reposition, and do we have any comments, questions?
You want a motion?
Comments, questions first? Anything?
I'd just like to thank the administration, Christine, Greg, and Cheryl, and of course the principals for working on this budget since October. And I think it was probably maybe the last week of September, Christina was asking you guys to think about what you would need for the next fiscal year. So I'd like to thank you for everything that you've done in the cooperation. I think Christine has already talked about the financial planning meeting that was held this past Saturday in Northborough, but the town board was very pleased with the cooperation. Mr. Gradere had nothing but accolades for the school district of working together, and in the times when it's very hard, when they're counting every penny to make it to be so financially responsible to the citizens. But you've done such great programs, and you've done it so well with what you have, and the buildings are in great shape. It's always such a pleasure to go past the building. So I'd like to thank all the administration since October to get to this final budget and not to have as many increases as you would probably like to see. But we've always had the support of the PTOs. They do wonderful jobs and they come here for their presentation, so that helps us and the administration and all that. So please, and to the teachers also, in getting the contract negotiations and everything done early. So thank you for the great collaboration among everybody. It makes our job easier.
Anything else? All right, and I'll just echo what Joan said, and this is a budget that is fiscally sound and provides for educational excellence. So again, thank you for the work that you do, and hopefully we can move this forward and bring a very sound budget to town meeting, where we're very hopeful that the town will vote favorably upon it, so at this point, I will entertain a motion.
Okay.
Mrs. Kress.
I will move that we approve the fiscal year 2018 budget in the amount of $23,445,017, which is reflective of a 3.19% increase.
Second?
All right, all those in favor? All right, thank you.
Also in your packet, and we discussed some good news last month. And, one of our goals as a school committee and the work that we do is to maintain our assets, our capital assets, certainly our schools. But one of the ways that we do that is through the tremendous and continued support of the town. There's a warrant article moving forward to complete phase 2 of the Proctor roof. And so we're very excited that even though that necessarily wasn't ready for renovation and work on our multi-year capital plan, the town found themselves with an opportunity to move that forward for us, and that did happen. So we thank the town administrator and everyone involved in making that move up for us. And the work will begin, I'm sure, this summer. So there is a warrant article moving forward. The language is in your packet.
Before we
And,
move on to that, one note about the warrant article, and John Cadera noted this at the meeting on Saturday, is that capital improvement will be paid for out of free cash.
Right.
There's no tax implication or impact at all on the taxpayers of Northborough. So this is all just done as one of the things that we're gonna cover under free cash.
Thank you.
So there's a warrant article, we don't have the number yet, but the language is enclosed in your packet. So we probably want to read this into record for the community, and also would request that someone, I think Patty volunteered to read this. She stepped up
She did.
last month when we knew that this was going to move forward.
Well, do you wanna let's let Patty read it?
I think that
There
was
you go,
great.
there you go, let's get a run through.
Sure, so I move that the Northborough School Committee approves this warrant article to see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $300,000 for the use of the Northborough School Department for roof repairs at the Proctor School, and to meet said appropriation in the sum of $300,000 to be raised by borrowing in accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 728 and 729, or any other enabling authority, and the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, be authorized to issue bonds or notes therefore.
Second?
Thank you.
All those in favor of Patty reading the article and the article?
Of the article.
The article itself first? Okay,
Okay.
let's do the article
Of
first.
the article first.
Okay.
And of me reading, and do I need to make a second motion for
No.
everyone? No, I don't think that
No.
needs to
We
be a
just
motion.
ask
Yeah,
them.
we just-
Yeah.
But I will.
I think we'll fight with you on that one.
But I will be also thrilled when I do read the article, I will mention, of course, that it has been, I think maybe the moderator will mention that it has been approved by the Northborough School Committee, which
Right.
is, great. I'm so for this.
Yeah. It's time, it makes sense, and I think that, again, the conversation that we had with appropriations and with John and everyone definitely reflects that makes sense we've already done part of the roof, let's finish the job.
And thank you for mentioning it will be done out of free cash, which is fantastic.
Yep.
And it's just, in case something changes, we're covered with the language in the warrant article, but.
And I believe the chair of appropriations asked how long, what kind of a guarantee will this have? I think the guarantee's for 30 years, and it'll go up to 50, I think. So this is one that
30-year warranty.
30-year warranty.
Expected to
Life
last
expectancy.
50.
Expected life
50
expectancy
years.
50 years, yeah, so we're not gonna have to deal with the Proctor roof for a long time, okay?
Well, we can all
So-
hope we should.
Yes, exactly. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
And there's a second article before us again, and this really addresses what the vote that we just took with respect to the FY 2018 budget moving forward at town meeting, but we would need someone to volunteer to read that as well.
Would any of my colleagues like to read this? If not, I'd be more than happy to.
I'll read it into session tonight, but you can read it at the town meeting. That's
Fair
always the
enough.
honor of
That's
the,
Fair enough.
okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Please. Thank you.
I move to see if the town is a warrant article for the town to vote to raise and appropriate the taxation, by taxation, the sum of $23,445,017 for the operation of the Northborough Public Schools.
Well said.
I like the number of words there.
Yeah. So vote to approve the
And
article?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? All right. Thank you. Move on to education policy. We have none at this time. However, we have some policy development and distribution items.
These are all second reads, and if there are no edits, we can actually vote to approve them this evening.
So we have 3 before us. We'll start with E220.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the policy E220, accidents and complaints in connection with pupil transportation.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Move on to curriculum I-140. Mrs. Frank.
Guess I'll get them tonight.
Yeah.
I move that we accept the new policy, the revised policy for I-140 on curriculum.
Seconded.
Seconded by Keith. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Thank you. And passes unanimously. And then we'll move on to student travel, J300.
Back again, huh?
Is there any discussion of this before we take a motion? Because this is one that we did vet pretty thoroughly.
It's come a long way, though.
It has
From
come
where
a
it
long way.
started.
Totally.
Totally, yeah. That's the word of the night.
I like the
Mr.
changes from
Yep.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the student travel J300 policy as presented today.
Second?
Second by Mrs. Frank. All those in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So you can add the green sheets? No.
No.
We'll get the new ones next
Right.
next
Yeah.
meeting,
They'll,
okay.
they'll come back as in the form of just distribution
Yep.
in the next month.
Okay. So now we move on to audience sharing. So we have a very wide range of
Audience.
audience members here in age. So does anyone in the audience have anything that they would like to share? Okay, thank you. And we'll start with our principals.
We kicked off our readathon today, so we partnered with the new Worcester hockey team, the Railers, and the Bravehearts. They came in, the kids were thrilled. So they've agreed to come back throughout the readathon and support us. Our school goal is 1,000 reading hours. So the kids are up for the challenge. So if you have any Proctor students or you come in contact with them, you can encourage them to read. And our spring fair is April 1st on a Saturday. So you're all invited to attend.
Thank you.
I just wanted to acknowledge Coach Justin McKay and members of his football team who are joining with us again this year for our quote-unquote tackling reading program that we developed last year to encourage our older, maybe a little bit more reluctant readers to engage in reading. So Coach McKay and quite a few members of the team were at school yesterday afternoon to work with some of our great kids just to get them motivated to read. They sat in the cafeteria, read books together as incentive and motivation for some of our students where reading is a little bit more difficult or might be not the most preferred activity. So I just wanted to thank Coach McKay for that. I did want to remind the community that on next Thursday, the 9th, our parent-teacher conference is for the elementary school. I want to thank across the board the teachers for their work in preparing for conferences and the importance of that relationship between home and school. On the fun side of things, tomorrow is Read Across America Day in honor of Dr. Seuss. Alan Phelps, the Z School music teacher, has been working with our drama club for this year's theatrical production of Seussical Kids. So if you are looking for something that's not reality-based entertainment or what seems to be reality-based entertainment, please come to Z School at 9:35 tomorrow morning or Friday morning, or 7 o'clock Thursday evening or Friday evening. The programs that you have, say, Tuesday cast and Thursday cast, one of the hazards that Mr. Phelps experiences is that the program is oversubscribed. And as such, he has 2 separate casts. So we cast the show 2 times, and each day one cast takes over and the other group is the chorus. So please feel free to come to all 4. 1, 2, 3. Think 1, think 2, think 3, and 3, 4. It's really a great show.
So we'll just continue on the reading train of thought. We're also celebrating Read Across America at Lincoln Street this week with organization by our librarian Lee King. So this year we asked the students to vote on different books of Dr. Seuss that were of interest to them, and the highest vote getters became the theme for each day of the week. So Fox and Socks was the winner for one day, so everybody wore crazy socks. Oh, the places you'll go, everybody wore a shirt or something from a place that they enjoyed visiting. So each day is in a different theme, and under the direction of Katrina Whalen and Lee King, we have a 4th grade drama group this year as well, and they'll be performing for grades K through 3 tomorrow morning. Some different skits that they put together based on some of Dr. Seuss's works. And we're also looking forward to green eggs and ham being served in the lunchroom tomorrow, I think at all, of our elementary school. So that's something else for the kids to enjoy. So we're also ending the week with PTO-sponsored bingo and the book fair being opened also at bingo, which is something we haven't done before. So we hope that the week of reading and excitement about that will be concluded with our bingo and book fair Friday night.
There's so much going on at Melican, but just a couple of highlights. March 16th is our annual jazz night, which is a popular event. We have a visiting musician come work with the students for the day, and then at night we're treated to a wonderful concert by the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade jazz students, and then we also hear from some actual jazz musicians. They play afterwards, so it's a really wonderful evening. That's March 16th at 7. And then later in the month, March 24th and 25th, our musical, which is being performed at Algonquin at 7 o'clock both those nights, Beauty and the Beast Jr. Melissa Jameson is here. She is very involved with the play, along with so many other staff members. Whenever we have a musical, we involve approximately 100 students, so there are lots of different jobs for students besides the acting roles and the chorus, but 2 kind of big events for us in March.
Great, thank you. And my colleagues. Well, just the reminder that Team Trivia Night will be that first Friday in April. So if you go to northboroughed.org, I know that the sign-up sheets, you can get them online right there. And it's going to be held again at the Doubletree in Westborough. So we're looking forward to seeing many of you there.
That's great.
Having a great night.
Busy month.
It is a busy month. So all of your, the personnel items are in your packet. All the school newsletters and other communications are also in your packet. Future agenda items, we will have the public reading of the fiscal year 18 budget.
And I think Proctor School Improvement Plan in April. Is that right, Alon?
Lincoln Street.
Lincoln Street.
Lincoln, okay.
Thank you.
Will be
Some policies.
Some
Policy
policies.
distribution.
Busy earlier
Oh,
this
yes.
evening.
Well, we have some reads too.
Yep.
and reads.
The good news is there will always be things added between now and
Yes.
when we gather again.
This is true. All right. 2 reminders. One is that the next scheduled combined school committee meeting will be Wednesday, March 15th at Algonquin. And the next Northborough School Committee will be Wednesday, April 5th of 2017. So, I will entertain a motion. Yep.
Yeah, I will move that we enter into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to litigation. Due to the chair's determination that a discussion regarding this matter in an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the position of the committee, with, we have no intent to return to open session.
Second. All in favor?
Yes.
As a roll call?
Yes.
Is a roll call?
Go into executive
Okay,
session.
so,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
yes. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next month. We are adjourned.